A little over a few weeks out, to me, I think the signs continue to point to Jaden Daniels, to see Jaden Daniels sliding much past pick number 2. So let's...
Now, this one source has been 100% accurate during this offseason when it's come to predicting what the Washington Commanders want to do. But at the same time, before we start this video, I just wanted to give you a disclaimer that it is smokescreen season, so anything can really happen. Regardless, I'm fairly confident that the Washington Commanders did make their decision. So before we get to the content, we are racing my basketball channel, Flight Mike, to 1 million subscribers. So do me a favor and check if you're subscribed. We're like 35,000 subscribers behind him, so I think we're starting to make up some ground. Now we get all that out of the way. Work! Over the past few days, we've been dominating on Prize Picks. We've been hitting an NBA, MLB, and we're on a hot streak, making a ton of money while having a lot of fun while doing it. I post my picks for free on Instagram, so you can literally just go copy my picks and just enjoy the game. And right now, Prize Picks will double your deposit match when you use my promo code FlightMike when you sign up. Or you can just click on the link in the description down below and sign up for Prize Picks. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Washington Commanders did a remarkable job during free agency, and this is coming from a Dallas Cowboy fan, mind you. I think as far as the rebuild goes, they did what you're supposed to do in free agency. They didn't splurge and they didn't overspend. Rather, they picked up some quality players at positions that needed to be addressed. Players that had familiarity with their brand new head coach, Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn reunited with Tyler Biadasz, although he didn't really coach Tyler Biadasz when he was on the Cowboys. But Dante Fowler Jr., Bobby Wagner, Dorrance Armstrong all came over to play for Dan Quinn once again. He got a solid running back in Austin Eckler, who should form a formidable tandem with Brian Robinson, and signed dependable locker room guys like Zach Ertz, and got a good backup quarterback that could serve as a mentor to whoever they select with the number 2 overall pick in Marcus Mariota. And speaking of which, look at Marcus Mariota in his introductory press conference. This man seems to have aged 15 years. It's actually crazy. I mean, Marcus Mariota is probably the most telltale sign of a player who had all the talent in the world but had his career mismanaged, and as a result wasn't really able to fulfill his potential. But in any case, from top to bottom, from the ownership group to the head coach to the general manager to the multiple brand new free agent acquisitions, the Washington Commanders look significantly different. They spent their cap space very well, and they already have a promising wide receiver core for whoever they decide to spend the number 2 overall pick on. Now, originally people thought that number 2 overall pick was going to be traded for a number 1 overall pick. Maybe they were going to make a huge move to select Caleb Williams number 1 overall because they hired Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator. Cliff Kingsbury has a lot of familiarity with Caleb Williams, but alas, it doesn't really seem like that's what's going to happen. I mean, Caleb Williams is already talking to the media like he's a Chicago Bear.
I've known Keenan for a little bit now, hung out. He was at the Chargers at the time. Now he's at the Bears for, like it says here, for a 4th round pick, which is crazy. He had his best year last year. He's a beast, good guy, awesome dude to be around. He can give you a lot of knowledge.
Even though Caleb Williams likes to do stuff like this, where he ignores Keenan Allen as he's walking in on his pro day, which I personally still found this to be hilarious, but I digress. The question is, who were the Washington Commanders going to select with the number 2 overall pick? And originally, throughout this past year, the assumption was the number 2 overall pick is going to be Drake May. But the problem with Drake May is he reportedly took a step back this past season with North Carolina. Now, my personal philosophy whenever it comes to evaluating quarterback prospects is you can't go based off of the season that these players have. Rather, you need to be evaluating the things that they can do and whether or not their game will translate to the NFL. I like to remind everybody that Patrick Mahomes in Texas Tech wasn't the Patrick Mahomes you see now. People thought Patrick Mahomes in Texas Tech was probably going to be the next coming of Brett Favre, a quarterback that struggled to read defenses, that had a gunslinger mentality, who was being coached by Cliff Kingsbury, ironically. So in this case, I don't really think you could go wrong with the number 2 overall pick, but it seems like the momentum is pointing in Jaden Daniels' direction. Now, Jaden Daniels recently went viral for this picture, which this was caused by Ian Rappaport, saying immediately following his pro day, LSU QB and potential top 3 pick, Jaden Daniels is scheduled to meet with the Patriots, Commanders, Giants, Vikings, Broncos, and Raiders per his agent, Ron Tyrone Butler. Daniels has not previously met with any of these teams. So if you take a look at his elbow, people were asking what the hell's wrong with his elbow. Daniels said that my elbow is perfectly fine, stop the cap. And while I do think Caleb Williams is going to be in a great situation with the #1 overall pick, I feel like for all these other quarterback prospects, you should be doing everything that you possibly can to be selected by the Commanders with the #2 overall pick, or pray that the Minnesota Vikings jump up and try to snag you with the #3 or #4 overall pick. Because if you go to the New England Patriots with the #3 overall pick, things might get really bumpy for you, and I think your chances of busting for the New England Patriots are significantly higher than your chances of busting with the Washington Commanders. And that's nothing against the New England Patriots. I just look at the Patriots roster and what they did to one of the most pro-ready prospects in the 2021 NFL draft, and I noticed that they haven't really made any major adjustments to their offense to make things easier for any incoming quarterback. Obviously, if you play for the Patriots, things are going to be a little bit tougher than if you played for the Commanders. However, as we've just saw with the Houston Texans, we've seen teams select quarterbacks and begin their rebuild with a quarterback and had that quarterback completely elevate their franchise. At the same time, their Houston Texans at least had Nico Collins, and they hit on their pick of Tank Dell, and they had Dalton Schultz at the very minimum to throw the football to. I don't really see the same type of pieces from the Patriots offense, but hey, it could happen, I guess. But fortunately for Jayden Daniels, it's looking like he's not going to fall past #2, as Adam Schefter recently went on his podcast and clarified that it's looking like the Commanders are going to take Jayden Daniels at #2. And at the same time, the Patriots are looking at Drake May with the #3 overall pick. Now, before I show you this clip, I would like you guys to remember that on one hand, Adam Schefter is one of the most trustworthy sources we have in the industry. At the same time, it is smokescreen season, and it is his job to try to get the ball rolling on enticing some of these teams to trade up. With that being said, listen to what Schefter said on his latest podcast.
That the Bears have traded Justin Fields. Pencil Caleb Williams into #1. Whether or not he'd be interested in going to Chicago, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think the Bears want him, which brings us to Washington. I know we're not supposed to spoil picks. We'll see how the Commanders decide to move forward with the #2 overall selection. But a little over a few weeks out, to me, I think the signs continue to point to Jayden Daniels being the 2nd overall pick at #2. Seems like he's popular in the scouting community. Seems like he would bring a lot of the attributes that the Commanders would like.
Now again, this could be a smokescreen, but remember 2.5 months ago, we were all pondering who the Washington Commanders' next head coach was, and we were all convinced that they were going to hire Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. Why else would they wait so long to hire their head coach? Well, Adam Schefter got ahead of it and told all of us that it wasn't going to be Ben Johnson.
First and foremost, I'm not convinced yet that Ben Johnson's getting the Commander's job. And he may get the job. Like he very well may. He's in contention. And they are definitely looking at other people as well. I think that they're pretty impressed with Mike McDonald and Aaron Glenn and Anthony Weaver as well. And I think those guys are going to have a legitimate chance to get that job.
Eventually, he was proven to be right. Now again, this could all be a smokescreen to entice some team to trade up with the New England Patriots so they could get their quarterback of choice, because Adam Schefter typically is the maestro that starts the smoke screens. Same with Ian Rappaport. It's not that they're trying to lie to us, but whenever teams give these insiders information, these insiders are going to put it out there. But it's not just Adam Schefter that's saying Jayden Daniels is going to be a Washington Commander. Listen to what his head coach Brian Kelly had to say on Jayden Daniels.
He is going to be so committed to taking care of himself that you don't have to worry about size or he doesn't weigh enough. Mahomes, I wouldn't consider him a giant because he's going to get the ball out to the playmakers and make plays.
And this is perfect because a college football coach reportedly compared Jayden Daniels to Patrick Mahomes. No, I'm serious. I tell people this. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, I haven't coached against someone like this. He's just very hard to defend. We tried to force him to run it and take it out of his hands. The throws he makes and the timing he has, I thought was second to none. He throws the deep ball extremely accurately. Wow, so you're telling me that there might be 2 players in this NFL draft that's the next coming of Patrick Mahomes? How exciting. But that aside, Jayden Daniels being selected #2 overall by the Washington Commanders makes a lot of sense. Commanders. Primarily because if you look at the setting that they cultivated in Washington, it was a setting that made sense for either Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, not so much Drake May. For example, they signed Marcus Mariota as a backup quarterback. Does Marcus Mariota play the quarterback position more similarly to Drake May, who's a pocket passer, or Jaden Daniels, who's a dual threat QB? Now, the counter argument to this is the fact that Dan Quinn had tremendous success as a head coach with a pocket passing quarterback, Matt Ryan. So which quarterback more closely resembles Matt Ryan? Obviously Drake May. But if there's one thing that we've learned from Dan Quinn so far, it's that you shouldn't expect the same formula twice. The defense that he ran for the Seattle Seahawks is way different than the defense he ran for the Atlanta Falcons, which is significantly different than the defense that he was running in Dallas. In Seattle, he ran a lot of zone defense. In Dallas, he ran a lot of man defense. And if you even look at the reaction that Dan Quinn had to Drake May's pro day, he said that Drake May is athletic, but he said Jaden Daniels is a game changer. So I'm expecting Jaden Daniels to go number 2 overall to the Washington Commanders. And I honestly don't think you could go wrong even if you do go Drake May at the number 2 overall pick. I think the only situation that could be a rough situation for any QB is obviously going to the New England Patriots. I mean, the Patriots didn't really do much to improve their offense during the offseason, so just throwing a quarterback there and throwing him to the Wolves wouldn't be the best scenario. Whereas if you compare the Patriots to the Washington Commanders, you could either hand the ball off to Austin Eckler or Brian Robinson, throw the football to Zach Ertz or Logan Thomas, or you also have Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin. Your defense looks beefy as hell, especially with the acquisitions of Bobby Wagner, Dante Fowler, and Dorrance Armstrong, paired with Jonathan Allen, coached by Dan Quinn, who has been incredible as a defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, my personal prediction for the Commanders, if they select Jaden Daniels number 2 overall and he fulfills his potential, is their ceiling is good enough to win the NFC East. And this isn't any shade against the Philadelphia Eagles. I just don't think there's a team that is a bona fide winner from the NFC East this year. Like, I don't think there's a Kansas City Chiefs caliber team in the NFC East is what I'm saying. The Cowboys regressed mightily this past offseason. The Washington Commanders made the most significant jump in my opinion. The jury is out on the Philadelphia Eagles. They made some very strong moves to their team, signing Saquon Barkley, bringing in Bryce Huff, trading away Hassan Reddick, bringing back CJ Gardner-Johnson. But could the inconsistency from last year haunt them again this year? You don't really know. At the very worst, I think the Commanders could finish number 2 in the NFC East, and this is coming from a Cowboy fan. Either way, no matter what decision the Commanders make, whatever quarterback they select is going to be in a great situation to succeed, being coached by Cliff Kingsbury, having a mentor that was a former number 2 overall pick in Marcus Mariota. In this case, there's a lot more similarities between Jaden Daniels, a Heisman Trophy winner going number 2 overall, who's a dual threat QB, and Marcus Mariota, who's also a Heisman Trophy winner who went number 2 overall. That's a dual threat QB. But at the end of the day, I don't think the Commanders could go wrong here. So let me know in the comment section down below if you're a Washington Commanders fan. Where do you want Jaden Daniels to go? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.